Thanks for being with us tonight here on The Hill. I'm Blake Berman. Turns out Doge isn't going anywhere. Elon Musk lamenting that it's been a whipping boy, but the White House is set to tell the House which cuts it wants to be made permanent, what it means for NPR, PBS, USAID as well. Plus, I guess you could call it the power of the pardon pen. After a reality show couple, you just saw some of it there, gets pardoned, President Trump not stopping at that point. We'll show you who else is set to walk free. Also tonight here on The Hill, grading for equity. San Francisco was thinking about using that very concept in its schools. Then came the viral response. We are speaking with the man who alerted parents to that very possibility. But first tonight, here from The Hill, Trump versus Harvard, the latest chapter.
Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect. And all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. But Harvard wants to fight. They want to show how smart they are, and they're getting their kicked.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for being with us tonight. I am Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. So, as President Trump today said, Harvard needs to change. He suggested an enrollment cap on foreign students, and he laid out his argument for why billions should be shifted from the Ivy League institution to trade schools. So what does the White House want to happen next? May Mailman, who is a senior advisor to the president, joins me here in a moment. But first, we begin tonight with our Kelly Meyer live once again on the North Lawn for us this evening. Kelly?
Yeah, Blake, another chapter in Trump and this Ivy League school saga. Another night of this, the Trump administration pushing to ban Harvard from enrolling international students, pausing new student visa interviews, and now looking to call the number of foreign students at Harvard or to cap it, the number of foreign students at Harvard and other universities. Take a listen to this.
I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial, meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard?
So President Trump says foreign students are taking up spots that should go to U.S.-born students. He added that he doesn't want, quote, radical people coming to the U.S. and, quote, making trouble in our country. And the number of foreign students at Harvard for the 24-25 academic year accounts for 27% of its total enrollment, Blake.
Our Kelly Meyer, live for us once again this evening on the North Lawn. Kelly, thank you. Joining me now here on The Hill, May Mailman. She is a senior policy strategist over at the Trump White House. By the way, Harvard Law School grad with us once again here on The Hill. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Hey, Blake.
So lay out for me, as the White House sees it, sort of what's the goal and what does a resolution look like? Because the president today suggested that the way Columbia University has responded is fine in his book. What's the goal and what's the resolution here?
Yeah, so I think the way the president thinks about it is not different than the way a lot of Americans think about it, which is why on earth are taxpayers, and we have a $36 trillion deficit, paying Harvard to do things. Harvard has a $52 billion endowment that's larger than 100 countries. And so, you know what, if Harvard wants to make its case and say we actually should get money and here's why, then that's a partnership, that's a relationship. And that's something you say, you know what, here's why we need it, and you build goodwill. And what Harvard has done is basically the opposite of that, sued us twice and made a big stink about things, versus Columbia is like, I want to show you that we are a good steward of taxpayer dollars. They're not there yet, but they're working in that direction.
So is this about only taxpayer dollars, or is it anti-Semitism, or is it putting a cap on foreign students? Because there's a lot out there, like, So that's what I ask you, what the goal is.
Yeah, but I think it's a partnership, right? And I think that covers all of it. So let's just take the
partnership between Harvard and the federal government?
Exactly. So if the federal government is going to give money, then we want things in return, like no discrimination, right? Why would you want to fund a project that's done by PhDs who were there not based on merit, but based on aesthetic, right? Let's take foreign students, for example. The foreign exchange program in high schools is not different than the visa program in colleges, where you're supposed to come here and learn American values, take those values, go back to your home countries, and like America, understand America. But if Harvard is not honoring basic information sharing, and instead of actually treating this as, let's teach people American values and let's have this partnership, and instead It's about taking those values and importing them.
I hear you talk about partnership, though, but as a conservative, this is the federal government and a private institution.
Yeah, and so there doesn't need to be a partnership. If Harvard wants to be on its own, if Harvard wants to say get lost, then okay, we'll get lost. And so that's why all of this, as you know, there were some basic requests. We want no discrimination. We want merit-based admissions, merit-based hiring. We want ideological diversity, right? People would be able to speak on your campus. And Harvard, instead of even responding to that letter, decided to make a public stink about it. So there is no need for a federal partnership in research grants or student visas or anything, but that's Harvard's choice.
So when you talk about no need for a federal partnership and you look at research, for example, May, I'm looking at, the smallpox vaccines, anesthesia, Alzheimer detection, and the president today talked about billions of dollars going from Harvard to trade schools. And I don't think anyone would argue that sending billions of dollars to trade schools to develop them and to try to build out the next generation and the new frontier, whatever that may look like. You talked about AI, for example. No one would argue that's a good thing. But and the president just said, it's in exchange for research. And why is that the case that the White House is willing to make? Why does the White House believe that's right, that it's this for that?
Well, already this is the White House's values that we put forward in the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is a 20% tax on wealthy endowments and additional funding for trade schools and for workforce development. So I think this is not a new concept, that we think that federal money, instead of being directed to research by an institution that blatantly discriminates on the basis of race, instead that money should be redirected to institutions that are merit-based and that through research and through projects can actually create American jobs. So is it going to be this specific pocket of smallpox funding for NIH? No. But is it going to be a redirecting of federal money in general? Yes.
Enrollment caps. Here's what the president said today. I want to get your reaction on the other side.
They have foreign students. About 31% of their students are foreign-based. These countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and we are. So why would 31%? Why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%.
Harvard's foreign enrollment was 19% 2 decades ago, 22% a decade ago, 27% now. I'm looking at other prominent schools. USC is at 26%. NYU, where the president's son goes, is at 22%. Does the president believe that there should be foreign student enrollment caps all across the country or just for Harvard?
I think it's probably a more general policy, which is something along the lines of, like I said, the student visa program is supposed to not be sort of an unlimited number, but it's a number of people that come in and learn the values. And at some point, you get so many students that actually it's not about learning American values. It's too high. But I think more important than that is why not give American students a chance to go to Harvard? And if you take out the athletes, and if you take out the legacy, and then you also have DEI hiring or DEI admissions, and then now you've got international students, the sliver of spots that are open to just merit-based admissions it approaches zero.
So if I hear you right, caps across the board, no matter if it's Harvard, whatever school.
Well, I'm not announcing a policy right now. I'm just saying, as a fairness matter, to give American students who just want to work hard and do their best a chance to go to the best universities. Isn't that a good policy? And I think we think it is.
All right, we'll leave it there. May Mailman is a senior policy strategist to President Trump and over at the White House. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for coming in studio.
Thanks,
appreciate it. All right, by the way, tonight, conservatives in Florida. When we think about colleges and universities and the national conversation that's taking place, those conservatives are expressing outrage about the hiring of Santa Ono as the new president of the University of Florida. He is set to become the highest paid public university president in the country, with the salary as much as $3 million a year after leaving the same post at the University of Michigan. Ono was a vocal supporter at one point of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Ann Arbor. And that is drawing the ire of Republicans in Florida, including the Congressman Greg Steube, who posted, quote, "Florida cannot afford leadership that enables or excuses woke ideology at its public universities." In a recent opinion piece, Ono renounced his views on DEI, saying in part, quote, "As president of the University of Michigan, I made the decision to eliminate centralized DEI offices and redirect resources toward academic support and merit-based achievement. I'll bring that same clarity of purpose to UF. With me now, Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. Hello to you both. Thanks for being with us. So there is this national conversation, whether it be at Harvard or if you go to Gainesville, Florida, or anywhere in the state of Florida with UF right now. And I think it's kind of this Santa Ono issue, emblematic, Julia, of where things are.
I think it certainly is, but there's a little irony in watching this play out in Florida. Of course, you have Greg Stubbe, the congressman, Senator Rick Scott, Congressman Byron Donalds, who is also running for governor in Florida. You just had a few minutes ago Donald Trump Jr. come out against Santa Ono, pushing back against that. However, it's interesting because you have Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, who is very conservative and who has pushed back against DEI quite a bit. His only public statements on this have been, I'm going to trust the process at UF, leave it to them. Now, some will bring up that the chairman of the Board of Trustees at the University of Florida is Maury Husseini, who is a big DeSantis supporter, someone who DeSantis has a lot of ties to. However, when you look at the Florida political intrigue in that's an interesting story.
I am a very proud graduate, Chris, as you know, of the 2023 national champions there in Ann Arbor.
I know.
And I told my friends at the time, I could not believe that DeSantis was going in this direction and in Florida was going in this direction, just given the political dynamics. Not saying Santa Ono's good or bad or whatever. And here it is, and you're seeing this spill out. Don Jr., WTF, have the decision makers at UF lost their minds? This woke psycho, this is Don Jr., might be a perfect fit for a communist school in California, but how is he even being considered for this role in Florida?
Well, what do we know? Politics makes everything better. When you put politics in it and make it political and make it about your own ambitions and your own agendas and you pour it in to anything, it makes it, oh, no, wait, it's the opposite. I'm sorry. It's the opposite of that. It's the opposite of that. What's the problem in higher education in the United States today? Costs have gone up like 180%.
Through the roof.
It's a terrible value. Nobody's talking about that. Everybody's scoring points by saying, we're meaner to Harvard than you are. Oh, yeah, well, your guy's a wokester. Well, you're out, then you're in, and all that stuff. It's garbage. It's unrelated to the actual work that the University of Florida is supposed to be doing. I don't imagine that this person believed DEI any more than he believes anti-DEI now. I assume that he is a bureaucrat, an educational bureaucrat who will say whatever you tell him he needs to say to have the job.
Let me ask you this. Is this the first of many that we're going to see, where a university president is named at school, whatever, and all of a sudden you're going to get either the left or the right saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Because this was largely a job to like just come in and get cozy with donors and raise money.
When Columbia and other schools went totally bananas around after October 7th and things got crazy, I thought, well, this will be bad for you. In the long run, this will be bad for you. You should stay out of this space. And they dove in the space and they jumped in and they rolled around in it like a dog in a dead deer. And now they're getting the other side of it, which is that ambitious Republicans don't try to put a new president of University of Florida in while Florida's having a gubernatorial primary. Is his name, by the way, Stubbe or Stubbe?
Stubbe, yeah.
It's Stubbe. Oh, I thought it was Stubbe. I thought it was maybe fancier. But don't try to do your job at a time when people need to score political points on public institutions.
I'll see you both later in the show. Thank you very much. Still to come here on The Hill, from a prison to a presidential pardon. What is next for Julie and Todd Chrisley, who were convicted of fraud and tax evasion? We're live in Florida. And by the way, they are not the only ones receiving a presidential pardon today. Plus, is it a learning lesson? How a proposed school grading system became so controversial and why San Francisco is now backing down. The man who alerted parents to what was going to happen there in California joins us live here on The Hill. And turns out you haven't heard close to the end of Doge what the White House wants next. Welcome to Washington. Thanks for being with us tonight here on The Hill. I'm Blake Berman. We're back on the other side in 4 minutes. All right, welcome back to The Hill here on NewsNation. Tonight, President Trump signing full pardons for Todd and Julie Chrisley, the reality TV couple previously convicted of fraud and tax evasion. Their daughter, Savannah, a vocal supporter of President Trump, has been fighting for their release since 2022. She even spoke at the RNC, the Republican National Convention, last year and asked the president to pardon her parents. Our Brian Enton down in Pensacola, Florida, doing what Brian Enton does best. Just spoke to the daughter moments ago, live here on News Nation. Brian.
Yeah, hey, Blake, we've been outside the prison here, the federal prison in Pensacola, all day waiting. It could have happened at any moment. President Trump signed the pardon for Todd Chrisley and Julie Christie a little while ago. This is the prison behind me. You can see these are all fans that are lining up here along the fence. And I just kind of want to walk around really quick, Blake, because Savannah Chrisley, you mentioned Todd Chrisley's daughter, just pulled in right before your show started. That's her gray car if you look through the fence. We might be getting in trouble here. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, we got to get across the street. But anyway, through the fence there is her car, and we're expecting she's going to be picking up her dad any moment here. Listen to what Savannah just told us, Blake.
Honestly, this process has been absolutely insane, and I'm just so grateful that I'm going to leave here with my dad. My brother, Grayson, is there to pick up my mom, and it's all due to President Trump, Alice Johnson, Ed Martin, all of them. They have truly just shown up, and they've looked at this case with a fine-tooth comb.
So you can see the police out here sort of pushing us back across the street, but we know that Savannah Chrisley is inside now, and we expect really at any moment she's going to pick up her dad, Blake, and bring him out as he's now been officially pardoned.
All right, our Brian Ensign live for us in Pensacola tonight. Brian, thank you. President Trump is breaking the mold by signing pardons far earlier than his predecessors did. For example, George W. Bush signed his first pardons toward the end of his second year in office, as did President Obama, both 23 months in. President Biden issued his first ones about 15 months into his presidency. But President Trump not showing signs of slowing down on this front. On top of signing 9 pardons today alone, the president said a pardon for a group of men charged with planning to kidnap the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, not off the table just yet.
I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked to me like some people said some stupid things. You know, they were drinking, and I think they said stupid things. But I'll take a look at that.
Back with me once again, Chris Steyerwalt, host of The Hill Sunday. You know, Chris, I was looking at the first ever pardons. Pardoning is not unusual. Commuting sentences, not unusual. What's different here is the president's doing it right out the gate. He did it with, the 1,500 or so folks people involved with January 6th. And it hasn't stopped. And I just wonder sort of what the future of this is.
Well, the other thing that's different is the nakedness of it, right? So if you remember in Trump's first term, in order to do pardons, he did a whole song and dance with Kim Kardashian, and we care about criminal justice reform, and we're going to do all of this. And it was built into a kind of context of what pardons are supposed to be for, which is when the judicial system is overreached, that the executive has the power to right a wrong and undo an injustice. Now, and especially with the pardon of this guy whose mother gave $1 million to Trump, and he put in his pardon application, hey, my mom really raised a lot of money for you and really likes you. And Trump's like, here you go, it's pardon for you. When Bill Clinton gave Mark Rich a pardon, you talk about do it early, do it late. Mark Rich, international fugitive, his wife gave a bunch of money to the Clintons and cozied up to Bill Clinton. He got a pardon. It was a massive scandal. Donald Trump does it on like day 150 of his administration. It's like, all right, folks.
How do we view this now, though? Because I just watched the last president tell me he wasn't going to pardon his son. Yeah. And he did. I just watched preemptive pardons as well, right? And there's a conversation over that. So sitting back, basically how Biden exited and how Trump is starting, how do you think the public views this right now?
Well, you may have noticed that the trajectory line for the quality of our chief executives has not been robust lately, right? It has not been Washington followed by Lincoln. Okay. The powers of the executive branch have been sorely and badly abused. And one of the things, Joe Biden did a lot of stuff wrong. He did a lot of stuff that was selfish, and he did a lot of stuff that was probably bad for the country in the long run. One of the things that he did was that little flurry of pardons at the end where he pardoned his son and he pardoned the people who he said might be prosecuted later. This is not a place where you want to make presidential history for expanding the already kingly power of pardon to give it to your friends, to give it to your family members, these other people. It's supposed to be sort of embarrassing, not something you do at an Oval Office announcement.
Chris Stirewalt, I said I'd see you later in the show.
And you deliver. And yet you deliver.
Here we are, still much more ahead. Other side of the break. Did you see the story out of San Francisco? Went viral. A proposed grading system capturing national attention. Grading for equity and a decision on that front. And the president today commenting on taco. Not the food, what he was asked about and how he responded. When The Hill returns. .30 right on the dot here in our nation's capital. By the way, it is 3:30 out west. Would you look at that? Golden Gate Bridge there in San Francisco. As the conversation over higher education continues, the Bay Area tonight is also in the spotlight for a different reason, though. A story that was titled Grading for Equity, coming to San Francisco high schools this fall. Excuse me, from the Voice of San Francisco, making headlines. Now, that initiative, Grading for Equity, would have de-emphasized the importance of timely performance, completion of assignments, and consistent attendance in the school system there in San Francisco. This after the controversial grading proposal is now being removed, now being killed essentially after backlash. The initiative faced big-time criticism. For example, the Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna writing, quote, "My immigrant dad asked me where the missing 10% went when I scored a 90. He came to America for the chance to work hard and pursue excellence. Giving A's for 80% and no homework is not equity. It betrays the American dream and every parent who wants more for their kids." The San Francisco mayor also bashing the plan, saying, quote, "We owe our young people an education that prepares them to succeed. The proposed changes to grading would not accomplish that." Joining me now is John Tresvigna. He is the author of that story in the Voice of San Francisco. He's also the former dean of the University of San Francisco Law School. With us now here on the Hill. John, thanks for being with us. You're the one that kind of blew this all wide open, this grading for equity. It was discussed last night at the school board meeting there, essentially there in San Francisco. And just like that, it's done. Explain to me what it is and sort of the backlash there in your parts.
Sure, it's good to be with you this afternoon. And while the article in the Chronicle said it's killed, our superintendent said it's on pause. And I'm glad the superintendent has put it on pause. I'm a proud product of our San Francisco public schools, and we've had strong public schools for many years. Until recently, we've had much turmoil and significant changes. A few years ago, we went through an issue about changing names of the high schools, taking down murals at Washington High School, etc. And we thought we had moved forward. And this is an example where the grading for equity, that wasn't my term. That was a term used by the school district in rolling out a new way of grading. So, and it was done.
Go on, sorry.
It was done without parent involvement. I think one of the big lessons is you have to have parents at the table.
Yeah.
I was a leader of a national civil rights organization a few years ago. We had a parent-school partnership program for Latino parents in Los Angeles. That is the way to go to bring parents into the system so that they are engaged. That didn't happen in this case. It was a fundamental failure of communication by the district in rolling out a program called Grading for Equity, but it really wasn't.
You were the one that sort of brought this to the forefront because had you not, I don't think the parents would have known. For folks who don't know this concept of grading for equity, here's some of it. Homework and weekly tests not counted towards final grade. Final exam determines the final grade, and it can be taken multiple times. Late assignments accepted. Class attendance does not impact grades. The scoring system converts F to C's and B's to A's. How is this even being considered?
It was in a 25-page school board agenda, 3 words, grading for equity. One of our school board members, a new member, Supriya Ray, had the opportunity to ask questions of the staff about, well, what is this? Who have you talked to? What is the fact basis behind it? Like, where has it been proven successful? The answers coming from the staff were that it was designed by a consultant, and in one place up north, Placer County, they touted the fact that kids who are more privileged were getting fewer A's under grading for equity. He said across the bay in San Leandro at their school district, the grading for equity had been in place for a number of years, but there was no indication that the gaps between different communities had grown, or that student achievement had increased. So there's really no support for it, and that is why when it came out to the public, there was overwhelming opposition. This is something that, as you noted, united left, center, and right. All against us, from Congressman Ro Khanna.
Yeah, Ro Khanna and the mayor out there. I went for a search and I couldn't find it. Maybe you can tell me if the Governor Gavin Newsom has ever commented on this. I couldn't find it. Do we have any idea of where he stands on this issue as he sort of starts to build out his potential next chapter and his aspirations?
No, our schools are very locally based. So this is truly a San Francisco school district proposal. So we don't know where the governor stands on this. He wouldn't normally take a position. But those who have now seen it, for our Mayor Lurie to others, have said this is not the way to go. We need to be looking at it closely. We need to provide students with the support that they need within the semester. That means offering homework, grading it, giving them feedback. There's something the academics call formative assessment versus summative assessment, and this would put all of the work all of the grading at the end of the semester. When I was in civil rights, we said high stakes testing is bad for a lot of kids. Some kids don't take tests well. Putting the entire grade at the end of the semester rather than working them through so that they know going into their final exam, they know rather than get the shock, gee, I didn't get that material after all. They know it during the semester. There are many ways to approach this, and I hope the school district really studies it closely and involves the parents.
By the way, I should note, here's the statement from the superintendent. She said it's clear that there are a lot of questions, concerns, and she says misinformation with this proposal. We want to make sure any changes benefit our students. I have decided not to pursue this strategy for the next year to ensure we have time to meaningfully engage the community. You're saying, last word, John, that this isn't done.
Well, they're still going to look at it. All my information came from the school district's own information, so I'm not sure where the misinformation came from. But we have a lot of communication to be done to make sure that parents are at the table, this program is studied, and that kids can better succeed for San Francisco. We're talking about jobs for the next for the rest of the century for our kids. They need to be well prepared.
Indeed, indeed. John Trevino was the one who first reported on this, and just like that, within a matter of hours, this concept put on pause. Thanks for being with us tonight here on The Hill, sir. Appreciate it.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
You as well. Still to come tonight, Elon Musk. What he's saying now about the big, beautiful bill, and is the White House about to make some of Doge's cuts permanent? When The Hill returns.
NewsNation tonight. Take a dive into deep-sea mining with NewsNation correspondent Nancy Liu. Exclusive underwater footage reveals how this controversial mission extracts technological materials and could boost our economy. Tonight on Elizabeth Vargas Reports, starting at 7 Eastern.
Welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. The president called them Little Marco, Lion's Head, Pocahontas, Crooked Hillary. You know the names, right? And those are just some of the uninvited nicknames that were put on political opponents, at least at the time, that stuck. After all, it was Donald Trump, a master of branding, who applied those labels. So, President Trump's reaction in the Oval Office today noted when a reporter alerted him to a nickname, or at least a term that is now being talked about on Wall Street. Taco trading, or Trump always chickens out. He was asked about it. Here's how he responded.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? Don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question.
Another question the president may not have been fond with when a reporter asked him about Elon Musk's displeasure over a lack of action in codifying Doge's proposed cuts in the big, beautiful bill. But this time, the president answered this way.
Elon Musk, in a television interview, criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. So we can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support.
Nevertheless, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, might he have just reminded folks that Doge really isn't going anywhere? The Speaker pledging to act to quickly codify the Doge spending cuts, some of them at least, writing today, quote, "The House is eager and ready to act on Doge's findings so we can deliver even more cuts to big government that President Trump wants and the American people demand." Full panel here with me now. Naveen Nayak is the president of the Center for American Progress Action Fund. She is the national political reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. Chris Steyerwalt, you know him by now, of course. And Aaron McGuire is a Republican strategist. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
On what actually turned out to be kind of a busy day, I guess, here in Washington.
I like how you act surprised that it's a busy day.
Yeah, I mean, Trump wasn't on the schedule, then he was, and then he made all those comments. Aaron, Doge, it sort of like left the headlines, but now there's the push back from the White House and from Republicans to say, you know what? Get those things codified into law. Is it going to happen?
I do think it will happen, at least in the House portion as of this point. How it continues forward, we'll have to see. But to be clear, a lot of Donald Trump's strategy to this point has been live by the pen, die by the pen. Nothing has truly been codified into law. A lot has been done by executive action and by force. So they need to take steps to actually make sure that the things that Donald Trump has put forward and Republicans have touted as success are long-term actual effects that happen for the country.
Here's the reporting from The Hill that the administration will send a clawback package basically saying we need to take the money back that will target NPR, PBS, and USAID to the tune of $9.4 billion. I didn't hear Republicans marching around this town saying we're going to save $9 billion at a time. They had much bigger goals and aspirations than that.
Oh, they always
He's laughing, but I'm going to get to you in a second on this one.
I mean, dream big and land among the stars as you shoot for the moon. I don't know what to tell you. They wanted more. If they can get 9 to start, let's go. You got to take it incrementally. I know this idea of the big, beautiful bill. I've always said there are 2 budget vehicles available in the Senate right now. So the big, beautiful bill is a big, beautiful idea to try to get it all done in one. It just never happens like that in D.C.
So NPR, PBS, USAID, you know where this is going. Your side of the aisle is going to go crazy on those headlines, right? You're going to react to those headlines. Is that kind of the point that the first clawback is going after these?
I mean, I think there's 2 ironies here. One is that they're in the midst of passing a bill that is going to raise the deficit by $3 trillion, or the debt by $3 trillion. So the fact that a conservative approach right now is, hey, maybe we can find $9 billion in cuts, it actually just shows how laughable this whole posture has been from them. And the other thing is conservatives have been making this case for years. NPR is not a new thing.
Right.
They've had chances to do it forever. They very much they loved having Elon Musk being the one with the chainsaw doing this, because none of them actually want to do this. And I think that's, maybe there's another acronym for Congress chickening out. I don't know what that is.
There in a second.
Called Congress.
Well, look, I find it interesting that Elon Musk is the person right now who is out front and center saying, I don't like this, and putting that pressure on Republicans. You also have Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida really stepping up, and I'm curious to see how other Republican governors react to this. It was interesting. There was a letter put out last week from a number of Republican governors, and not every GOP governor signed on. Look, I think at the end of the day, there's going to be sort of this, obviously, the sausage-making process in the Senate. It's going to go back to the House. But, I mean, you have a lot of factions to deal with within Senate Republicans and House Republicans. I mean, you have the fiscal conservatives like Rick Scott, Ron Johnson. You have the more moderates like Tom Tillis, Susan Collins, both of whom face really uphill re-election bids. But then you have conservatives like Josh Hawley, who's pushing back against Medicaid cuts. So they have to walk a really fine line here.
She hit on Elon being back out and making comments. You know what I noticed, Chris? He last week was trashing legacy media, and you know where he showed up? on CBS and the Washington Post.
Yeah. Right.
And I think, again, that goes to his signal of trying to work back into the business realm and move himself back in that direction.
Trying to re-mainstream himself. And you notice that the announcement from the House comes one day after the story breaks of Elon Musk saying, well, this budget's a bust. And we should point out, I wish Americans should wish that it was a $3 trillion increase to the debt. If they passed this legislation, it would be double that if they made permanent all of the new things that they're putting in it, that they're creating a deadline for in the future. The truth, we knew it all along. We said it all along. Until you do real governance and real legislation this isn't even a budget. Reconciliation bill isn't even a budget. It's supposed to be the rider. It's supposed to be the little hat that the budget wears. We haven't had a real budget in the United States of America since 2007. We are fiscally unserious. We are a joke when it comes to this stuff. That's why we've lost our AAA rating. And it's all fun and games to score political points and take this away from that person and that away from this person. And we can change parties and have everybody do everything with executive orders for as long as they want. But it will not right the fiscal house.
Aaron, the other part of this is trade that the president is trying to go back and forth on and implement his trade agenda. And there's a new phrase on Wall Street, the taco trade. Trump always chickens out. And you saw the reaction from Trump today when he was asked about it. He did not like it. And I just wonder now that he's heard it and he knows that it's out there, how he reacts to it, if at all, given that the theory is Trump's going to move the trade number up here, but back down, and Wall Street has sort of figured that out and will trade off of it.
They have figured it out. They are trading off of it. And I will say, to the president's point, people would be slamming him if he said, no, this is the rate and it stays here. And unless I get absolutely everything, I will not move. He is showing the willingness and the ability to negotiate. Some people might call that chickening out. I would call that at least willing to engage in the conversation, because he would be getting slammed if this was going the other way and it was completely hardline. The ability to negotiate, the art of the deal, is Donald Trump.
He's been negotiating with himself, and I think that's why his reaction is to the fact that there's truth to it, right? I think Donald Trump is very good at dismissing insults, and it came from Wall Street. This wasn't a left criticism. This was, I think, the Financial Times that actually made this criticism that came up with Taco. Yeah. These are people he wants their respect. He wants their accolades, and there's truth to it. He's been negotiating with himself against China. What has China given in? So I think it's a hard one for him.
How do you think he responds here?
Well, look, I mean, of his response to that, I mean, clearly he takes it personally. To Naveen's point, these are people he wants to win over. And look, I think this has been a frustrating process for him, as we can see, as to what happened in the Oval Office. I think with China, that's been a big goal of his, but he's having some issues there.
Well, whoever needs to tap into their kid's 529 or 401k tomorrow can send a note to the reporter who asked that question of Donald Trump, because no doubt he will feel the need tonight or tomorrow to show that he is no taco.
That's why I bring it up. Yeah, that's where I wonder if some of this is going.
Swing the hammer, Thor's hammer of tariffs, crushing down on as many things as possible to show that he's not chicken. And, of course, we should remember how many legally binding trade agreements have been put into place since Donald Trump took office. Zero.
I'm getting a text from our team. Our Kelly Meyer is reporting on a separate issue. We started the show on Harvard and foreign enrollment and all of that. New from Secretary Rubio, the U.S. will begin revoking visas of Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. That tonight coming out of the State Department. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thanks for being with us tonight. Other side of the break. Mixing politics and sports. Is there a trend that we are seeing right now, maybe involving your favorite coach? My take next on the other side of the break. And coming up tonight on Elizabeth Vargas Reports, she is heading to Arkansas, where a former police chief called the Devil in the Ozarks has escaped prison and is on the run. That's 7 minutes away. 7 o'clock Eastern, right here on News Nation. My take, other side of the break. Thought politics was kind of like sports a little bit. You got teams and goals trying to take on the other side and win. Turns out that analogy just might be playing out. Want to show you some of the headlines from just really the last week or so. A handful of days ago in Ohio, the legendary former Ohio State football coach turned newly minted Lieutenant Governor Jim Tressel told reporters in his state that he wasn't ruling out the possibility of running for governor next year in the Buckeye State. Now, if that were to happen, he'd follow the former longtime Auburn head football coach turned senator Tommy Tuberville, who announced earlier this week he's running for governor in Alabama. And potentially, who might fill that Senate seat? Well, how about this headline from Semaphore? GOP chatter about Auburn coach Bruce Pearl for Senate. Now, Pearl is the head men's basketball coach at Auburn University, fresh off a Final Four run. And we even highlighted Pearl on this show during March Madness as he used his post-game press conference to bring awareness to an American hostage. Here was part of Pearl's opening statement.
Eden Alexander is still held hostage in Gaza right now.
Now, Alexander, as we know, has since been released. Pearl, the basketball coach by trade, has also recently been posting about Iran's nuclear weapons program. Now, we do know Tommy Tuberville's intentions. He's running for governor in Alabama. Jim Tressel isn't backing away from the possibility of just doing just that in Ohio. And Pearl is pure speculation at this point. But if politics is kind of like the current events version of sports, it's not crazy to think that coaches to Congress or the governor's mansion becomes the next big play. And that's my take tonight. I thank you so much for watching us here on the Hill. We hope you join us tomorrow, once again, 6 o'clock Eastern. Big news out of the White House today, Trump versus Harvard, the latest chapter, some of which we cover tonight here on the Hill. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'm Blake Berman.